Okay, in this section, in part 2 of the skeletal system, we're going to look at ossification involves two phases. One is oppositional growth, where the bone grows in diameter. So that would be this way, so oppositional growth. And the hormone responsible for this is growth hormone, especially during the adolescent years where growth spurt really starts to kick in. The other one is longitudinal growth. Longitudinal growth Okay, this is where the bone grows in length. Okay, the bone grows in length. Okay, this occurs until you reach skeletal maturity, which occurs anywhere between age 18 and 22. And at this point, that's going to be as tall as you are. So genetically, if you grow to 5'8", then that's it. If you grow to 6'2" or 6'5", then that's it. So that would be skeletal maturity. Okay, bones are dynamic. So that means they're continuing to remodel. Okay, continuing to remodel. And the things responsible for this is diet and lifestyle. Okay, so on the diet side, you do need calcium, and that does get deposited in bone. Now, there's other, minerals that we can eat. That's just part of our daily intake, especially if you have a balanced diet of fruits and vegetables and your meats and all that. And if you're supplementing, you're going to get, your vitamins and minerals, and a lot of that does get put in bone, including calcium. And then the pull of gravity on the muscle. Okay, so that's your exercise part. And if you are bedridden or you become inactive, then the bones can actually weaken over time. Okay, so the more active you are, then the stronger your bones become. Okay, this next one is going to get into some hormones and endocrinology. So here's an introduction to some endo for you. Endo being short for endocrinology. We'll go into more detail with hormones in ANP2. But right now, let's look at some hormones that are responsible for the bone. Okay, when calcium drops below homeostatic levels, okay, so this would be obtained through a lab, so blood chemistry. Then the parathyroid glands are going to be stimulated to release parathyroid hormone, abbreviated as PTH. Okay, parathyroid hormone activates osteoclasts. Osteoclast's job is to break down bone and extract calcium from bone. Okay, so let's draw that out. All right, so first, okay, you have low calcium levels. and you're not eating. Okay, so in other words, you're not getting calcium into your system, and your body is going to pick up on that. So what's going to happen is you're going to therefore activate the parathyroid gland, which sits posterior on the thyroid gland. Okay, so the thyroid gland is in your throat area, and on the back of the thyroid gland, you have the parathyroid glands. Okay, so that is going to release parathyroid hormone, and because bone okay, so in your body, your bones have a good supply of calcium. Okay, so currently your blood calcium levels are low, so that's called hypocalcemia. Okay, so hypo means below, and here is your calcium, and emia means blood. Okay, so hypocalcemia, low blood calcium levels, and we need calcium. There's a lot of functions in the body that need calcium, including muscle contraction, skeletal muscle contraction, heart muscle contraction. Calcium is also responsible for healthy versions of clotting blood. So if you bleed and you want your body to stop the bleeding, calcium is responsible for that. And so it's important to have healthy calcium levels. Okay, so if you're not going to eat the calcium, your body is going to pull it out of bone. Okay, so all right, so calcium gets pulled out. And if you pull calcium out of bone because of the osteoclasts, okay, the osteoclasts break down bone to release calcium. Okay, if you do this, you are going to therefore raise blood calcium levels, and it will bring them back to normal. Okay, if you keep doing this, you're going to weaken bone. So the more calcium you keep pulling out of bone, then the weaker the bone is going to become. Okay, likewise, there is the opposite of that, and that would be calcitonin. Okay, so the thyroid gland has specialized cells in it that are going to release calcitonin. Okay, this is your hormone. Okay, in order for calcitonin to be released, you have to be experiencing hypercalcemia. Okay, so hyper means above or too much of. So there's your calcium, and emia is blood. Okay, so now there's too much calcium in the blood, so your body says, no problem, I know where to store this calcium. So calcitonin is released, and it will take calcium and put it in bone. Okay, and the osteoblasts help with this process. Okay, blast means build. Osteo means bone. Okay, so an osteoblast helps build bone. Okay, by doing this, you are going to lower blood calcium levels, and it'll go back to normal. Okay. Okay. If a person does have hypercalcemia and it does cross a line, so too much calcium, the signs and symptoms, okay, so SS there is signs and symptoms, would be things like constipation, anorexia, nausea, vomiting, skeletal muscle weakness. Okay, that's a telltale sign. Bone lesions and abnormal heart rhythms, another telltale sign. Okay, hypocalcemia, a sign and symptom would be muscle cramps, dementia, depression, neuromuscular irritability. Okay, so the muscle cramps and neuromuscular irritability are some really good clues that you might be dealing with hypocalcemia. And if the hypocalcemia continues over time, then you risk osteoporosis, which is weak bones. Okay, because you keep pulling calcium out of bone, um, or you're not depositing calcium in bone, so it gets weaker and weaker as time goes by. Okay, here's a picture of osteoporosis. Okay, so this is the hip, and this is a very big weight-bearing area. Okay, when you stand, run, walk, climb stairs and all that, a lot of pressure does actually go to that hip. So if the bone is demineralized because you're losing calcium, it can fracture. Okay, and so here's what it looks like for a hip replacement. All right, this picture is showing the spongy bone, also known as cancellous bone. So this is healthy and therefore strong bone. And then in this picture, they're showing the weak, unhealthy bone because it has lost calcium. Okay, calcium keeps getting pulled out, so you can see that the bone there is getting weaker and weaker. Okay, a good test for this is called the DEXA scan. Okay, the DEXA scan. And so when you get this scan done, it actually tells you how dense or not dense your bones are. So it's a really good test. It's something I order quite a bit. I think the best scanned areas is the forearm and the hip. Okay, and then the computer will pick up on all that and let you know what your bone density is. Okay, Paget's disease is abnormal deposits of calcium in bone. Okay, so what ends up happening is the circumference of your head, of the skull, gets bigger. So, like, your hat doesn't fit anymore. In this picture, so this is a picture of a knee area, and this is normal. And then in this picture with Paget's, you can see the excessive deposits of calcium. So it looks very what's called sclerotic. So it's very dense. So that's why it looks so white on X-rays, because it's very dense. Too much calcium. Okay, so abnormal deposits of calcium over time. Okay, bony remodeling. If you exercise and stress the bone and the enthesis, keep in mind the enthesis is where the tendon or ligament embeds itself into the periosteum of the bone. And when you move, like lift weights or any kind of exercise, you're stressing that enthesis in a good way, which makes it stronger and stronger. More calcium is deposited in a healthy way, and it makes the site um, resist tearing. Okay, because but if you become bedridden or sedentary, the bone will soften, and you risk osteoporosis, or you risk the enthesis being snapped off or damaged because of the softening. Okay, bone does respond to our diet. So it does respond if you exercise, but it also responds to our diet. Unfortunately, in our culture, soft drinks and youth is common. So a lot of youth nationwide drink a lot of soft drinks. Okay, here's the problem with that. One problem is when you're little, the bones are still hyaline cartilage, which means they are gradually being deposited with calcium over time. And the older you get, and as you age and as you grow, that bone gets harder and harder and harder until it reaches skeletal maturity. What's happening is when you're young and you're still depositing calcium in your bone like crazy, and you drink a soft drink, you're going to block some of that calcium deposit in bone, and soft drinks do that. Okay, so whatever your philosophy is on soft drinks, it can lead to bone problems, okay, and other health problems such as diabetes because of all the sugar that's in it. Plus, then that's combined with a lack of exercise and sedentary lifestyle, such as video games or gaming, or just spending a lot of time inside watching, Netflix and YouTube and all that. Okay, so there's just not a lot of activity going on top of poor diet. Okay, some side effects of soda. The phosphoric acid is what weakens bones and rots teeth. So the same stuff that makes your bone also makes your teeth. Um, and so it makes it hard. So if you're practicing demineralization as a kid by consuming soft drinks, you're going to age in unhealthy bones. You're going to age into bone that's behind the curve, meaning it's not 100% mineralized with calcium. So maybe you're now 20 years old and your bones are starting at 80% calcium density, and as you get older, it's just gonna get worse, and you'll have premature osteoporosis and stuff like that. Okay, so so I do think it's important that uh, soft drinks are at best kept to a bare minimum with kids, instead of several soft drinks a day, starting from really little and extending into adulthood. Okay, the excessive artificial sweeteners make you crave more. The caramel color made um, is cosmetic. It doesn't add flavor, and it's tainted with carcinogens, which basically means a toxin and can cause cancer. Formaldehyde is a carcinogen. Now, formaldehyde is not added to soda, but when you digest the aspartame, It breaks down into two amino acids and methanol, uh, formic acid, and formaldehyde. Okay, so that's what the body ends up breaking the diet sodas down into. Okay, the high fructose corn syrup is a concentration form of sugar derived from corn and increases body fat and cholesterol and triglycerides, and also contributes to making you hungry, making you crave more. Potassium benzates is a preservative that can be broken down to a benzene in your body, and that benzene can be carcinogenic. And then the dye can impair brain function, uh, add or cause hyperactivity behavior such as ADD, ADHD, difficulty focusing, and lack of impulse control. Okay, there are some natural sodas out there, so if you are hell bent, especially as a kid, on having your soft drink, there's some natural versions out there that stay away from all that crap. Um, so the best thing is to try to have kids and adults as well have some sort of an active lifestyle and healthy forms of fluid intake and a balanced diet. Okay, rickets is a uh, disorder in youth where the bones fail to calcify. And that's usually because of a lack of calcium and vitamin D. Now, you do need vitamin D in order to absorb calcium at its optimal levels. And vitamin D deficiency in our culture is very common. Okay, that was pretty easy these days to supplement with. If you're interested in this, it would be vitamin D3, known as cholecalciferol. It is best to have it in a liquid, okay, a liquid form, because the vitamin D will be suspended in a fat, usually an oil, and vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin. Okay, your fat soluble vitamins are A, D, E, and K, and and the best form to take that is if that vitamin D supplement comes in a fat form, which would be an oil. Okay, and it's oil, so you just drop it in your mouth and you're good to go. They'll put some of these oils in a, like a vegetable capsule. That's fine, as long as it's an oil with the vitamin D, because it's absorbed the best in the body. Okay, years and years ago, to try to help avoid vitamin D deficiency, some food is fortified, which means they added the vitamins to the food. And as a result, a lot of those rickets cases started to go down. Um, so when the bones get soft, they start to bend. Okay, so that's where the bow-leggedness and/or fractures can come into place. Okay, vitamin D deficiency is actually a big deal. Vitamin D does a lot of things for the body, including brain function. So, D deficiencies can lead to depression, schizophrenia, and other mental health disorders. It can cause high blood pressure and coronary heart disease if you're D deficient, muscle aches and weakness, um, respiratory problems. It can help dysregulate your blood sugar, so the pancreas and diabetes start to surface. And then, of course, the strengthening of bone. Vitamin D is good for bone. Okay, vitamin D is also responsible for your immune system. So D deficiency can lead to immune dysfunction. So the best thing to do is just take your vitamin D daily.